Hi guys, thanks for being here today. Today we have Anuja here. She's coming from Paris. She represents as a Korean of the best business schools around the world. And she's going to talk to you about the programs and what they're looking after when they're recruiting potential students. This is a great opportunity for you to get to know what a university looks in an application, in an applicant, so that you can better prepare for your applications for business schools. So, Anuja?
Thank you so much, thank you again, everyone. My name is Anuja. I'm from India, and I joined HEC last year. So if you think it's not very usual for an Indian in Paris to be in Greece, let me tell you that's very normal at HEC. It's a very international cohort. We have Greek students as well every year. So you will be a part of a very international campus when you come to us. So I know we have a very little time together, so I want to just make sure that I touch on the basics of what we look for, as Dimitris rightly said, in an application. And of course, this is not the last, but our first conversation together. So I'll be giving you my email address in the end, and also sending you an email once you put your information on my iPad, so that we stay in touch. I can also, schedule a call with you from Paris, because I know that this is your future, and let's not in 15 minutes try to cram everything in there. So as much as you can hear today and more that you want to be in touch with me, I'm happy to help, okay? So first of all, why HEC Paris? Well, these are just 3 of many Greek examples I have of why you should consider joining HEC. Paraskevas, I'm sorry for my pronunciations. I don't speak Greek, I speak 6 languages. I don't think I have the brain space to do a 7th. But Paraskevas is a business analyst in McKinsey right here in Athens. Anastasios is in London. He's working as an investment bank analyst. And Raphael is a current student at HEC, so he's completing the program. And he's doing his gap year, and he's working as a financial analyst at Deloitte in Paris. So these are just 3 of many examples of how you can go out in the world and work after HEC Paris. So I hope this is the first myth that I want to debunk. There are 2 places that you can work after HEC, is not Athens and Paris, but really Athens, Paris, and the rest of the world. If you're thinking of the finance world, then London obviously still remains the Mecca, the capital. So you can, as you can imagine, Anastasios and maybe some of you in the coming years will be working there. So this is the reason why I am here. We are very interested in the diversity of our classroom and getting more Greek students to HEC. And as Dimitrios said earlier, it's a very international campus, and it's also a very top-ranked business school. But let me tell you something about these rankings. Employers look at rankings, okay? These rankings are made by students who have completed the program, who go back and talk about the excellence of their academics and also about their career opportunities. And it's also alimented by employers who've hired our students and who are happy with the skills and the abilities that these alumni have of HEC in working well and forwarding the company's business. So both these aspects mean that as a very top-ranked business school, we are interested in keeping these numbers up, which also means that we are very proud of our international alumni, and we are also very cautious about the fact, just as you are, that careers are a very important part of your applications. So our philosophy at HEC is pretty clear for us. You're always in a small classroom. I don't know about your bachelor's so far or your education in Athens, but we don't want you to be in a class of 500 or 400 students where you're trying to put your hand up and you can't really see the professor. You're in a class of 30 to 40 people, which means you're able to engage, you're able to debate, you're able to even criticize the professor if you feel that what they're presenting is not something that you saw in your country, that your country has had a different attitude towards what is happening in the world. And that's where it comes to a perfect balance of theory and practice. You're not just writing down in your notebook some theory and saying, okay, I'm going home for the rest of the day. No, you're going to be engaging, like I said, in debating. Remember, you're coming to France. France is very, very well known for these aspects. And also, you will almost always have what we call practitioners. Professors who are people who were working in Morgan Stanley, BNP Paribas, they were on the trading floor for 10 years. These are people who are able to tell you not just what works in the business world, but also what you do if and when a solution that's put in place by a company or by your team doesn't go forward. Because in the business world, 2 + 2 is 4 doesn't work everywhere else, am I right? Every country has a different way of looking at things, cultural codes are different, which also means that your business and the way in which you do business with these clients is going to move, it's going to change. So you're going to learn that, and you're also going to learn how to spring back on your feet, just in case, like I said, a business solution that you work together to put in place does not really pan out the way you want it to. And last but not the least, it's a very inspiring campus. There are a lot of networking events, there's a strong social life, and a second myth I want to debunk over here is that we are not located in Paris, but we are located outside. Okay, it's 40 minutes outside Paris. The positive of this is that you're able to live on campus. It's a very affordable campus in terms of accommodation, in terms of food, and also there's a beautiful lake, so in summer students have barbecues there, and also in a very American campus outlook, you're able to interact with people across the world, work together, play together, and of course, learn together, because you're at HEC, a place where we want you to learn from your students who are with you and not just your professors, okay? Remember what I said earlier, you'll be doing business with people across the world. You might come back to Athens and work in a very local company, but your clients can be from Asia, or you'll be working simultaneously with some Americans who are also interested in your company. So you will always be in an international context, which means when you're at HEC, you're still learning, even if you're outside the classroom. So, in terms of our programs, do you already know something about the Master in Management Grande École? Anybody who knows of our programs? Okay. Those who don't know our programs at all and would love to know more? Okay, great. So, like I said today, we don't have much time to talk about all our programs, but let me tell you some basics. The Master in Management Grande École is a 2-year program. In the first year, you do a solid foundation of business, okay? And this is a program that's open to all students. Business, engineering, pure sciences, humanities. We even have a law student this year from Poland who is interested in the program and he's doing it. So you should know that if you're, no matter what your background, you're welcome to apply for the program. And the second most important thing is that we don't need you to have any work experience to apply for this program, okay? The reason's pretty simple. We know that some of you are bachelor students or have had some internship experience but are not sure what you want to do afterwards. Let's take finance, for example. In finance, there's venture capital, there's investment banking, there's corporate finance, there's capital markets. You don't know which one would be interesting for you. You don't know which of these fields is something that could be your career for the rest of your life. And you don't just want to choose something and then figure out later that the rhythm of that life, for example, merger and acquisitions, the rhythm of life is sometimes you come home at 2 a.m. If that's okay for you, brilliant. But if it isn't, then what you need to know is that this is something you should know before you decide your career, right? So for the Master in Management Grande École, between year 1 and year 2, you take a gap year. You stop studying and you take 2 internships of 6 months each, okay? The Career Services is there to help you. There are 25,000 internship and job opportunities on our portals, because every year, out of the 250 students who do this program, 95% of the class takes the gap year, which means every year that database is updated. The idea is that for 6 months and for the second 6 months, you experiment without deciding what you want to do in the future. So maybe you can do 1 internship in an investment bank and 1 internship in private equity. See what you like, see the rhythm of life, see how people work there, network. Talk to the people who've been working there for 5 years, for 10 years. What are the job prospects afterwards? Is this something I want to do? I know these are the questions we all are faced with, right? That people always give us good advice. Maybe you can do investment banking, there's a lot of money. Okay, but what if I don't like doing it? What if on a Monday morning I wake up thinking, why am I doing this, right? So to make sure that you choose well, you can take the gap year and then in the second year, you can pick specializations. So there are 2 ways you can get into HEC. One, you've already done an internship or maybe you've worked for a year or so in investment banking and you know, Anuja, that's my career, that's my dream. I don't need to look anywhere else, right? I've already decided. Then you can apply straight for the MIF, the MSc International Finance, which is a 1-year program. The same goes to strategic management, accounting and financial management, marketing, entrepreneurship. There's a whole field, okay? Or you haven't done some internships before, or you've done a couple of internships during your bachelor's, but you're still not sure. You need to keep your options open. You need to keep the door open. It can be consulting, it can be finance. I don't want to choose just yet. then you apply for the Master in Management. Okay? So there's a lot of information on our website as well about these programs, and I got a few brochures today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring as many brochures as I wanted. So I just have the portfolio which has basic information about our programs, but we are also updating our website because every year corporates and companies that work with us and hire our students keep informing us about what are the different ways in which we can update our education, right? So we are also then updating course information on our website, so make sure that you have a look, and of course you'll have my email address as I said earlier. So we also have certificates as a part of the program, so at the end of your second year of your Master in Management Grande École, or at the end of your one-year program, if you're already decided that you want to do finance, you can also take some certificates which are chaired by these companies. I'm sorry it's a bit busy, but there's Kering and Louis Vuitton if you're interested in working in luxury or excellence in client experience. There's energy and finance. I know that energy has become one of these big fields where people are interested in working. But if you are interested in doing something completely different, maybe digital entrepreneurship, just want to try something new, then this is an excellent opportunity to network with these companies, work on business projects, keep learning as you go ahead. Okay? And in terms of campus life, as I mentioned earlier, you can stay on campus, so that's always a plus. Last year, my Italian and Indian students did a common cooking enterprise. I think they had a really good time. So the idea is also to, like I said, live together. And of course, there's a lot of student clubs and sports activities on campus, all the way from wine and cheese to investment clubs. This year, the investment club president, one of them is from Pakistan, the other is from Italy. Maybe next year, Greek students can take over. So what you need to know is that on campus, you'll never have a boring day. Maybe at 8 a.m. you'll go for a class, followed by a group meeting to work on a company project, because a real company with a real problem has given you a project to work with, and you're going to present to them after 10 weeks. Then maybe in the afternoon you go to play sports, or with your friends who are a part of a club, you go and do some other activity. Every Thursday there is a PO, as the French call it. So there's quite a few things happening on campus, and of course there's a language center. So this is where I'm going to debunk another myth for you. You don't need to speak French to come to HEC. Okay? All our programs are taught 100% in English, and with like 60% of the population of professors and students who are international, it's a plus to speak English. Okay?
Can I say something about the campus before we move to faculty? Sure. Guys, the HEC has one of the best campuses I have ever seen around the world. I mean, you don't see this. It's like a huge park. I visited in 2015, and it's pretty amazing.
There's also deer. One of my students went running, and he said, I saw deer this morning. There's a little bit of everything. Thank you. So what I was trying to say for campus life is also that, like I said, you don't need to speak English to be on campus, but I would recommend that you learn French for 3 things. To order your coffee in French when you're in Paris, to ask for help if you're lost, and last but not the least, if you decide to stay back in France to work, even if your company is international and they're all speaking in English, French people tend to switch to French in the evenings when you go out for drinks together. My brother is working in a French company as well. He doesn't speak a word of French. I tried, okay? I tried to teach him, and he said, "What, are you kidding me? No, I'm not learning French." And whenever he goes out with his company mates for a drink in the evening, and when he's in Paris, he said, "I don't understand a word." That's actually when a lot of conversations happen. That's when you're networking. That's when you find out that another team is looking for someone, and maybe you have a friend who you can refer there, right? A lot of things happen over drinks in France, okay? So it's nice to learn the language if you want to stay back. But like I said earlier, if you don't want to, and that's perfectly fine, a majority of our alums go out in the world, then just learn some basics to be able to get around, you know, buy your bus ticket, get your coffee, ask for help, and that's enough, okay? So coming to recruitment, as I mentioned earlier, we are also very much in the loop as you are about finding jobs. So what I want you to know is 300 companies come to recruit HEC graduates every year. There are 5 job fairs, and there are also thematic job fairs. So in September, late September, early October, there's an international finance fair. Then there's a strategic consulting fair. In February, there's Carrefour, which is for everyone. The idea is that these companies come on campus to look for you. Okay? You don't have to go and cold call them. You don't have to go and check every website to figure out if they're taking interns, to figure out what's happening. These companies are coming to you. All you have to do is Get your best suit out on the day when the campus visit is happening. Get out your CV and go and talk to them. Okay? One of the beauties of our career fairs and the fact that these companies keep coming to recruit HEC students is that our students that they had hired 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, come back with the company. So I think, for example, there was DHL. One of our HEC students is now working at DHL Consulting, and he came back on campus and he was super excited to be the bridge between HEC and his own company. So it was amazing for the HEC students to talk to him. What are you doing every day? What kind of profiles are you looking for? So as early as September, when you're on campus, you're already networking, you're talking to the right companies, you're working on your CV to make sure that you know that you're working towards the right goal. And last but not the least, you're also eliminating the possibilities, right? Maybe at these career fairs, you meet companies that don't have the kind of jobs you're looking for. Then as early as September, you know that you have to widen your net and search more, right? So I just have 2 examples. One is that Bain & Company is coming on campus on the 5th of November, and this was their LinkedIn. They were like, we're so excited to come see HEC students. So this is just one example to tell you that you don't have to go look for the companies, they're coming to you at HEC. Okay? So they're going to have a lovely networking cocktail and events. This is also a good reason why you should stay on campus. Like the networking cocktail is at 7:30, and as we are located outside Paris, if you live in Paris, it's going to take you a little while to go back. But you're on campus, you're networking, you're able to make the most of these opportunities. And the second I have is some photos at the finance fair. As I said, everybody's super well dressed on those days. During the week, I see people almost sleepy on Fridays, especially walking around in casuals. But on the days and when there's a career fair, like Gunjan says, the finance fair is a great platform for us to meet so many finance companies in one place. And this is the reason why they come. You should think of HEC, is that you don't have to go out on your own individually, look for jobs, figure out what's happening. You're going to get all that on campus when you're here. Okay? So I hope that was interesting so far in terms of why you should consider us. And that brings us to what we are looking for. First of all, in terms of academic excellence, I want you to know that while we look at your GPA and your transcripts, we're not looking for 9.9 on 10 and no one else, okay? We know that there are students amongst you who have a lower GPA than 9 because you've been working hard on something else, you've been working simultaneously, or you had your own startup. So academic excellence for us is not just a very strong GPA, it's also a strong GMAT or a GRE average. So if you're here today, you're on the right track. Okay? If you have a GPA which is a decent number, which is not as strong as you think it should have been, then you can compensate for it by getting as close to 700 as possible in your GMAT. Okay? So I know you're at the prep center, I know there are days when the simulation goes wrong and you go home thinking, what do I do, right? So what you need to know is this: once you've given your exam, if you need a second piece of advice, feel free to email me, feel free to talk to me and ask me, hey Anuja, can we schedule a quick call? I got my GMAT scores today, just want to double check with you, am I good to go? What can I do next? As I said earlier, if this is your career, this is the rest of your life, let's make sure that you have all the support you need. Okay? The other things we look at is, of course, internships and extracurricular activities on your CV. Even if you worked in a blood donation camp, for example, it's still a managerial experience for us if you managed a group of students, for example, right? So don't worry about the experience not being business-oriented. Whatever experience you had, it's interesting for us to know. Okay? Then you're also looking at cross-cultural sensitivity. Have you worked in an international context? We were working right here in Athens, but you worked as a tour guide. And if you worked as a tour guide for 50 Indians, then I think you already are good to go. Because I know how loud we can be as people. Okay? So that's just one example of how we are looking at a holistic student. We are not just looking at your GPA and your GMAT and saying in or out. Okay? We look at everything because we want you to be an HEC student who represents us afterwards. And that is going to be possible if you are a complete package, as we say, and not just somebody who has a strong GPA but has never talked to someone outside their country and is a little underconfident when it comes to talking about their company if they have to do an elevator pitch, for example. Okay? So last but not the least, we're looking at a very strong motivation. At HEC, we want you to tell us why you want to come on campus. So don't focus on telling us that I want to come to HEC because Paris and because Dimitri said it's a great campus. We want you to tell us about your career objectives. Okay? What kind of careers, what kind of jobs are you looking for? Where do you want to go after your education? And why do you think HEC is going to offer you those tools, those skills, and those networking opportunities? All right? So don't focus on telling us what we know. Focus on telling us what we don't know about you. Your application is like the trailer of a film for us, okay? Has anybody seen a Tom Cruise film trailer and decided I'm not going to go see this film? Right? So it's the same thing. It's a 2-minute trailer, and for a 2-hour film, you've made your decision, right? So think of your application like a trailer for the admissions committee who has never met you. They don't know anything about you. So what do you want them to know in those 2 minutes, in that one application? So be careful, write your motivation, talk about why you want to come to us and how you think it's going to help you to go towards your career objectives. All right? So that brings me to the application process. It's a very straightforward online application where you upload your documents. We need your GMAT score at the time of application. So please make sure that when you're applying, you have your score ready. How many of you have studied in Greek in your bachelor's? Okay. So then those of you who studied in English 100%, you don't need to give any English language proficiency test. But if you studied in Greek, then you do need to give an IELTS or TOEFL or Cambridge, okay? Again, don't worry about the scores. The idea is to get as strong a score as possible so that you're able to follow the conversation, and be a part of the group projects that I keep mentioning, where you're going to be with students from across the world who might have studied in English all their life like I did, okay? So just to make sure that you don't fall behind, that you don't feel not confident, the idea is to make sure that you are able to follow what's happening. Okay? So do remember the GMAT score and your English language score, you need to have it ready when you upload it. So the next deadline is the 7th of January. There are 4 rounds of application. The first deadline was today, 7th of January, then it's 3rd of March and 28th of April. I got a few flyers that I'm going to give you for the deadlines as well. And remember, the interview is on Skype. If you are selected and if the admissions is very happy with your trailer, then they're going to invite you for an interview round. 95% of the students do it on Skype. We have a sustainability program. It will be ironic to ask everybody to fly in, especially when we have students from Latin America and Japan as well who are applying. So remember to dress for business, and for the interviews, again, whatever you've put in your application is going to be asked of you in the interview. Okay? For international finance, for example, there are a few technical questions. We always send tips for how to prepare for the interview before you go in. So again, at that point of time, if you feel you want to have a quick call with me, can you just help me, go through a few points? I'm so excited for my interview next week. Tell me how we can go ahead, and I'll be happy to do that. Okay? Which brings me to my email address, as I mentioned, and also I hope we have time for questions. I think we do, maybe 5 minutes. But just remember, I know it's a lot of information to take in. I know it's been a long day and it's going to be a longer evening. So if you feel that there's any question you forgot to ask today, you have my email address, we can stay in touch, okay? And like I said, I can give you a call from Paris once I'm there. So in the last 5 minutes we have, any questions?
Well, do you accept students who don't score a 700 on GMAT?
Absolutely. 700 is the average, not the minimum.
Okay.
That said, as closer to the target you are as possible is a good idea, which means that a 600 or a 630, knowing that 700 is the target, I would recommend that you give the exam again. And that's the other thing I should have mentioned. At HEC, we do have students who have retaken the exam and then applied. Okay? We don't negatively mark you for having retaken the exam. What's important for us is that you have the strong score you needed to apply.
Okay, so how about financial aid?
Sure. So for financial aid, at HEC, we have an HEC Excellence Scholarship. Students who have a great application, who have a good GMAT score, and their interview scores are also pretty good. The admissions committee moves your application directly to the scholarship committee, and you can get a scholarship between 2,000 to 10,000 euros, depending on the excellence of your application. There's no quotas, there is no decision made of 3 Greeks or 6 Chinese every year. That's not the case at all. So if you have a great application, you stand a chance as good as any. So that's the HEC scholarship. We also have a strong tie-up with different banks in France to make sure that just in case life happens, you need a loan to push forward your application, then you can also talk to them. And last but not the least, Embassy of France in Greece, we have a scholarship with them. So do get in touch with the Embassy of France to see what kind of scholarships they have to offer. So my recommendation with scholarships is don't put all your eggs in one basket and hope that one school or one place gives you money for everything. If you can pick and choose and apply for different scholarships that are local maybe, or international, or HEC for example, see what you can get.
What's a good application for HEC?
A good application is someone...
Apart from GMAT, of course.
Apart from GMAT. A good application is somebody who has a very clear professional goal or clearly knows what they want to do afterwards, has done their homework, has read about HEC, what we are offering as programs, has talked to maybe some alumni and some students to get a flavor of what's happening on campus so that you know what you're getting into. So the more confident you are of what you're applying for, the better you sound in your application, and the easier it is for us to see that you're motivated and could be our next student.
It's what we tell you in business workshop. You have to show that you have a clear purpose, and applying to HEC for a master's or an MBA is the next step towards fulfilling this purpose.
I'm glad you mentioned MBA. MBA accepts people who have already finished their bachelor's maybe 2 years or 3 years ago and have been working full-time for 2 years or more. Is any one of you like that? Did anybody graduate in 2016 or 17? Okay. Then for you, what you should know is for our programs, these are pre-experience programs. So the maximum work experience we accept is 24 months. The reason is pretty simple. We want to make sure that you're prepared for the business world before you start working. Does that make sense? So for you guys, I would recommend that you look at the MBA directly if you have 2+ years of work experience. So by September 2020, it will be 3 years. Am I right?
So what happens when somebody has graduated for more than 3 or 4 years but has less than 2 years of work experience?
That would depend on their
CV. In the army or something like that.
Then I will have to have a look at their CV once, just to make sure that I guide you properly. But the idea is, look, if MBA is for people who've already worked for some time, maybe have gotten a promotion or 2, and know where they want to move towards more leadership sort of position. But if you've just finished your bachelor's or are finishing your bachelor's and you want to go straight into a master's for business so that you can start working full-time after that, then you come for our pre-experience master's programs. I hope that was clear. Any other questions? Oh, yes, sorry.
Can you give us some examples of the technical questions that you said for the interview, for example, for the international finance?
I'm sorry, I can't give you the examples for technical questions because that's something that we're not supposed to divulge. The important thing for you to know is that, first of all, there is no list of technical questions in the sense that it depends on what the professor wants to ask you.
Yeah, I'm asking because you have like something for the engineering students.
Exactly, I was going to come to that. So, of course, an engineering student who has never done business or finance before might not be able to answer a very technical question dependent on that. So the professors do, shift those questions accordingly. So my recommendation is read as much as you can about what's happening in the finance world and stay in touch with that part of the finance world that you are interested in. So if you're interested in trading, read about that. Because if you mention that in your application, that I'm interested in going into trading after HEC, then I'm pretty sure your professors will ask you something relevant to that field. Yes, sorry.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask about the scholarships, the Scholarship of Excellence of the French Embassy. Do they apply for people who are half Greek and half French?
Interesting question. For the HEC Excellence, yes. For the Embassy one, I would recommend you ask them.
Because I've seen on the site, the HEC site, that if you are half French and half Greek, half Indian, I don't know, you cannot apply.
You cannot apply if you've studied in France, because then there's other scholarships.
So for the French students, not for the people who have French nationality?
Yeah. Yeah. But for the Embassy of France, I recommend you contact them, because every embassy has a certain mandate and a certain budget for scholarships, so you better check with them about what they want. Okay? I saw some, yes.
Thank you. I want to ask about the GPA requirement. For example, if you're if in HEC Paris the limit is 7, how
we don't
flexible?
Have a limit.
Okay. For example, how flexible GPA can be?
Okay. Instead of asking about flexibility of GPA, let me turn that question. What is your GPA right now?
6.9.
Okay. And are you finishing your bachelor's or have you already finished?
I have already finished.
Okay. But this means that for us, we would ask you to be as close to 700 as possible. So I would say get a 700 at least. For the simple reason that you are trying now to balance your academic excellence record, right? And of course you can't go back in time and change your bachelor's GPA. What we can do is work on all the other aspects to make them as strong as possible and get as strong as GMAT as you can. So just to give you a very hypothetical and crazy example, if you get a 640 and a 6.9, you have a very little chance of getting into HEC. Does that make sense?
So what happens if somebody has a 6.2 GPA but
I don't
has
like working
750 GPA?
Well, I don't like working on simulations because these are not the only two things we look at HEC. If this person has a great CV because they also already had a startup going on, they were able to, I don't know, come up with 1 million euros on the side, then our committee is still interested in looking at their application because their GPA was lower because they were working on the side. So there is always a reason why you are working, why your GPA is the way it is, and the reason is not just because you didn't give it your best. So I don't want to go into simulations for that very reason because the whole application is important for us.
Business school, you look at the whole package.
Absolutely. But that said, like I said, if you get very low GPA and a very low GMAT, then that's going to bring down your total score for us. So be careful.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Which program, my name is Taros, which program you think is a better fit for someone who has an engineering background? Has no experience in financial industry, and he has an experience in engineering also.
Okay.
What do you think is better fit for him?
My recommendation is, are we talking about you?
Yes.
Okay, because you said him. My recommendation is that you email me your CV because even if you have work experience, I need to be able to see what kind of experience you have, how many months you have it, and what kind of finance you want to go into. That's what's going to help me to guide you properly.
Okay.
So I don't like to guide people based on just a few factors. I like to look at the whole application, in your case, your whole CV. Does that sound good? Good. But just so you know, there are engineering students in both the programs, an MIM and an MSc International Finance. It depends on what kind of experience you have, where you're going ahead, and like I said, if I have a look at your CV, I'll be able to tell you.
And can also someone apply in an MBA program, in the MBA program?
Do you have 2 years of full-time work
Yes.
experience? Then I would recommend not applying for both, but applying to only one.
Okay.
Does it make sense for you to apply for a pre-experience and a post-experience program? That's like applying for a bachelor's and master's at the same time, basically.
That's why I'm asking which is better fit for some.
Okay, so if you have 2+ years of work experience and you know by September 2020 it will be 3 years, my recommendation is go directly to MBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is completely different from finance. If he wants to do finance, why should he?
Yes, because he's already worked for 3 years. The international finance program is preparing you for entry-level jobs. If he's worked for 3 years, it's unfair on him to go back to an entry-level job in finance. So then if he does an MBA, he's able to continue his path and career. That's why an MBA is different from a pre-experience master's program.
In a financial industry.
If he's worked in the financial
Yes,
industry.
and want to switch.
I understand you need to switch, but MBA is going to give you that academic experience to be able to switch later. But if you've worked for 3 years full-time, irrespective where it was, it's not fair on you to go back on square one. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good.
When it comes to scholarships, should we request for financial aid?
You don't need to request it. As I said earlier, the admissions committee moves your application straight to scholarships committee. You don't need to do anything about it.
And another question, is it negative if we apply for 2 different masters?
Absolutely not, but my recommendation is first be very clear about which is your choice 1 and choice 2. If you apply for choice 1 strategic management and say choice 2 finance, and if strategic management selects you for the interview, you do well in your interview and you're admitted to HEC, then international finance never gets your application. Which means that we are not sending your application to 2 programs at the same time. We don't want 2 program directors to fight over you. There's only one you.
So,
okay? Yes.
So they decide on their own?
Not on their own. Okay. Choice 1 decides first. Okay. If choice 2 decides not to take you, then your application goes to choice 2. Okay. Which is why be very careful what you put as choice 1 program and choice 2.
Okay, so there's a preference.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Could you give us some more information on the programs?
Sure. The certificates are not open to outside students individually. They are a part of your application. Sorry, a part of your master. So if you apply for, say, a master in management Grande École, you take a gap year and you work in luxury for 6 years, 6 months each, and you come back and do marketing as your major, then you can do luxury as a certificate at the end of your 2nd year. So it's a part of your program. It's not separate. Yes, I saw some hands here for questions. No?